Welcome to the Autopsy Room. I'm your man James. We'll get some housekeeping issues out of the way here first. If you hear any snoring in the background, that's Barky the Bulldog. He's currently laying on my feet, passed out, snoring up a storm. He was outside chasing cats all morning. I couldn't even get him to push the gurney in the room today. So he's out cold. Just wanted to get that out of the way in case you hear some snoring. But rather or not, if you believe in ghosts, it is a fact that the ghost entered the law books in the great state of West Virginia, and that was on the account of the Greenbrier Ghost. That's who we're going to talk about today. I love this story. I heard it many moons ago. Old Zona Shue, she's the Greenbrier Ghost. And it's possibly the most startling evidence known to man that mediums can offer conversation and provide conversation to or from the dead. And this situation convicted Edward Shue, Zona's husband, of Greenbrier County. Right here, where's the courthouse picture? There it is. Convicted him of murder in the Greenbrier County Circuit Court at Lewisburg, West Virginia in 1897 for slaying his wife. There's a picture. If you're watching up on YouTube, that's a picture of the courthouse. At least that's what I've been told. Has not been verified. But the Greenbrier Ghost, here she is, Zona. She's up on the screen there. She's popularly been given the name the Greenbrier Ghost. She's a young woman from Greenbrier County, West Virginia, who was murdered in 1897. Initially judged her death by natural causes, but the court later declared that the woman had been murdered by her husband, following testimony by the victim's mother, Mary, which claimed her daughter came to her in a ghost form and explained what truly happened to cause her death. Let's pull her off. Right here as they are. In October 1896, Zona met the old blacksmith named Edward Shue. The two were married there soon afterwards. Now, this is the house here. On January 23rd, 1897, Zona was found dead in her home. The coroner's jury rendered the verdict of death a heart disease. She was buried on January 24th, 1897, the day after her death, in a local cemetery. There's her gravestone there. At least that's what I've been told. Her mother later claimed that she'd been contacted by her spirit, according to Mary. That was her mother, Mary. Zona came to her and explained to her in a ghost form that Edward had killed her by breaking her neck. Armed with a story about the ghost, she visited local prosecutor. Right here he is, Johnny Preston. He widely known, one of the best of the best. She visited him, spent several hours in his office convincing him to reopen the matter and her daughter's death. Whether he believed the story was unknown, but he did have enough doubt to dispatch the deputies to re-interview several people of interest in the case. He then went to speak with a doctor who stated he did not make a complete examination of the body. This was viewed a significant justification for an autopsy. So Zona's body, let's get her up here again, show a little respect. There she is. Zona's body was exhumed from the grave on February 22nd and was moved to a one-room schoolhouse. Could you imagine that? Like, hey, Bob, you know what happened in here at school yesterday? They gave this woman an autopsy right there on your desk. The autopsy lasted 3 hours and was found that Zona's neck was broken. According to reports published on March 9th, 1897, the discovery was made that her neck was broken, her windpipe was crushed. There was finger marks on her throat indicating that she'd been choked. Her neck was dislocated between the first and second vertebrae. Of course, ligaments were torn and ruptured. The windpipe was crushed. at the point of her front, front of her neck. She was arrested and charged with murder of his wife after the autopsy. She went to jail there in Lewisburg and was held there awaiting trial for the trial to begin. And during this time that he was there, they learned a lot more information about his past. He had been married twice before. The first marriage ended in divorce because his wife said he beat her. So, imagine that. His second wife died under mysterious circumstances less than a year after he married. So I wonder what she died from. Zona was his third wife. She began to talk to people and wishing that he'd marry 7 women. Why anyone want to marry 7 women? No clue. One's plenty. He also spoke freely to reporters and stuff while he's being held before trial, stating that they'll let him free because there was no evidence. Trial began on June 22nd, 1897, and Mary was Preston's number one witness there. Got her on the stand, talked to her about her sightings of her daughter Ghost, would come explain to her what happened. The defense tried like hell to get her to go away from her story, but she didn't. The judge found it difficult to instruct the jury to disregard the ghost stories because most people in the town or the community believed them. Could you imagine rolling in the courthouse now talking about how you saw a ghost and they told you this and told you that? You get thrown out or put in a loony bin. But she was found guilty of murder on July 11th and was sentenced to life in prison. A lynch mob was formed. They wanted to hang his ass in the square, but luckily the deputy sheriff broke up the mob. Shout out to the deputy sheriff before any damages were done. Old Ed, he died on March 13th, 1900 in West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Got it up on the screen. He was a victim of an unknown epidemic, is what they're calling it. He was buried on an unmarked grave in a local cemetery. I'd like to find that, but it's unmarked, so I don't know how that's going to happen. Also need to go to Moundsville. I need to get up there and do some tours. That would be exciting. The state of West Virginia put up what do they call these things, a historical marker near the cemetery in which she was buried. Got it up on the screen there for your listeners. It's basically, in summary, it just says that Zona died in 1897 and was presumed a natural death until her spirit appeared to her mother and described how she was killed by her husband. And the autopsy and the removal of the body to do the autopsy verified the ghost account. And Edward was found guilty of murder. And it ends with it saying, only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer. It's a pretty interesting story. I like the courthouse picture here. We'll put that back up. Very interesting story. Just wanted to skim over it, get it out there. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but I've always liked this story. Is it true? Who knows? But like us, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube's The Autopsy Room. You'll find us there. Send us some messages, input. If you have any input on the Greenbrier Ghost. But until next time, this is James from The Autopsy Room. A good night and God bless.